Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Roll in whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Let's just get rolling. It's like skiing on the East Coast is it's
100%
harder. It's like the hardest skiing I've ever done because it might be better to have ice skates to get down the mountain.
And you're kind of defensive mode because a lot of people that can't ski at all and they're
exactly
about to take you out. No, definitely. That was my memory of it growing up, was just East Coast until my mom remarried, and West Coast is so much better. I mean, it's just it's how I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great vacation. You get exercise, you get camaraderie. You're exhausted by the end of the day.
Exactly. And you're out. You're not sitting behind a desk
Yeah.
like you
like you're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting out and doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, we're rolling.
Okay.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me out.
Oh yeah, Chris, glad to have you. This is fun, and like I said, never done a podcast, so I'm curious about the process, and appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Well, most people that have been on my podcast have never done a podcast before,
Craig Snow said he's very gentle.
That's awesome. But seriously, I mean, I've gotten to meet so many interesting people, and having the podcast is like a cool reason, or to be able to get somebody like, hey, like let's sit down and like talk a little bit more than just the, hey, we're at a networking event, like good to see you, how are things,
sure.
And like move on to the next.
Yeah. No,
and
I get it.
And seriously, I mean, like to be able to like sit here and like talk with someone like you is a really big deal for me. I mean, just kind of like thinking back, I don't know, from where I started and to where we are now. Like I'm sitting in Live Oak Bank with Andy Basinger, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff. So it's kind of a neat moment for me as well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but this is fun, and I appreciate the time. So look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, let's start with how'd you get to Live Oak Bank and private wealth, and how did that get started? And we'll just kind of go from there.
I mean, long story as short as possible, I started my banking career out of college primarily because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I sat down with someone who was a mentor of mine, and I was an econ major, and he said, well, if you don't know what you do, just be broad. Do something broad, go work for a bank. Mm-hmm. So I did that and got in the commercial banking program at a bank called First Union in Charlotte, went through that. Kind of progressed up to like a calling officer, calling on middle market companies. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed that, learning about their different businesses. Reconnected with my wife in Charlotte. She was there. She was going to dental school. I went to business school at Chapel Hill, got out of that, and thought I would get into investment banking. I think everybody thinks, I want to be an investment banker. Yeah. Just the glitz and glam of it all.
Totally.
And so we moved to DC, had an opportunity with an investment banking firm there. And it was going fine, but I don't think it was necessarily my passion. And I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I worked on a deal with the company Cliff Bar that makes the Cliff Bar energy bars. Yeah. And we were financing a buyout of that. So I got to spend a lot of time with the owner.
Is it Cliff?
No, Cliff is his dad, actually.
Okay, got it.
Cliff is his dad, and his name is Gary. And well, he was just talking about, he bought us, they had a chance to sell to a big company. His partner wanted to, he didn't, so he bought his partner out because he had this vision for this company of being kind of like a Patagonia, a very charitably inclined, and what he wanted to do for not only for that, but for his kids. And that just really intrigued me. I just really enjoyed talking to him about that. I mean, I just kind of got lost in time talking about all the stuff he wanted to do and his passion around it. And so I came back, I was like, investment banking isn't it. I really kind of like the wealth management side of things, talking to people about what they want to accomplish, their goals, objectives. Mm-hmm. And ironically, one of the guys I was in training class with at First Union had a friend in DC who needed someone to get in the wealth management business with Wachovia. So went to work with them at Wachovia in the wealth management business. We had twins up there. We wanted to get closer to North Carolina, which we're both from. My wife grew up in Wilmington. I grew up in Charlotte, so we moved back to Wilmington. Worked for the Wachovia Wells Fargo Wealth Management, private bank, did that for 16 years or so. And then I just felt like the bigger bank was removing resources from me and my clients, and that the offering that the bank was providing, while good and not going to necessarily blow anybody up, I felt there's a better way to deliver wealth management. Mm-hmm. And so ironically, I was here at Live Oak at a fundraiser, and one of the founders, Neil, came up to me and was looking at another one of the buildings here and said, wouldn't that be great if that building said Live Oak Private Wealth? And I was like, looked at him, and then someone walked up and kind of stopped the conversation. But he called me later, we had lunch here. They were interested in getting in the business. I'm really good, in my opinion, at financial planning, business development, relationship management.
Yep.
The investment management side I can do, but it's not my passion. And so when I was talking about that, they were already talking to two other guys, Bill Coleman and Connor Keller, about doing the investment side. So it was just a great marriage for the three of us. And so for the next 6 months, we met and talked about how we want to put this together and our ideas about what would create the best platform. And that's what's great about Live Oak. They kind of let you take what you know and create the best platform for the client. And then we launched it in September 2018.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's hard to believe it's been almost 7 years. And, you know, there have been some hard times and great times, obviously, but it's been a great ride. And Live Oak's been a great organization to be a part of.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, so Neil Underwood was one of. So, do you think that he comes up to you? I'm just like, I haven't met Neil, but I'm just like seeing him come up to you, and he's probably got this in his mind already. Right. He's like, this is how I'm gonna kind of like hook Andy in. Yeah. Well, like, tell me more about that. Like,
yeah, I mean, Neil's just one of these guys. He's such a visionary in so many things that he does, and I think he had this vision for what the bank could offer their clients, our clients, and from just a platform perspective.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they had this great idea, and they just, like any other vertical they create here, Chris. They try to find people, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, but people who've been in the industry a long time, have similar views to them about how to treat a client, and turn them loose, and say, go create it. Yeah. And for someone who'd been at First Union, Wachovia, Wells Fargo, all great institutions, but very much kind of cookie cutter, it was very refreshing for me to be like, I've been in this industry for 20 years. I think I know some things I want to change to provide my clients. And they just said, go for it.
Yeah. And you basically got to start your own business, like you were an entrepreneur, 100% throughout this process.
Yeah. I mean, me, Bill, and Frank, me, Bill, and Connor, started this from ground zero. We launched it right before Florence hit Wilmington. So we got to experience, what that was. I mean, it was an amazing experience to start something from scratch, but then also have someone like this, with you as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about like that 6 months of meeting and talking and planning. I mean, it's just, I think it's like, that's a good, in the grand scheme of things, 6 months is not a long period of time, right?
Yeah.
But I could imagine, you're excited about something, and as you're going through it, it's like 6 months could feel like a lot,
I mean, it was, now I look back on it, it seems a bit of a blur, but during the time it was like, to your point, we were so excited about starting, but we had so much to do to kind of get it to the point to launch it.
Right.
And sitting there whiteboarding things about how we wanted to treat the client, what we didn't like about our old organizations, what we wanted to deliver to our new clients, what we wanted the team to look like, what we wanted future growth to look like. So all those things, we batted back and forth, the three of us. Unfortunately, we all had kind of a similar mindset of wealth management, and that all we really want to do is provide a person, a family, peace of mind that we've got it covered for you. And that's just not just investments, that's planning, that's estate planning, all those things. So if something in their life happens, they're calling us. And I love it when today a client calls me not about the market, but it's like, I just had a baby, I need to get a 529 plan, or something is happening in my life and I need to talk to you about it. And that to me means we've really kind of connected on that next level we're trying to connect on.
100%. I was telling you, I try not to prepare too much for these conversations, but I did have one little like blurb. I might have a couple little blurbs in my head, but one that I specifically wanted to bring up with you was just that is what I've noticed in my work. Like, who would have thought, being an accountant, you would like actually be someone that people trust with, like, you get in, you help them solve the immediate thing, you build a relationship with them, and next thing you know, you're talking about stuff with them that is well outside of the accounting. It has to do with business and strategy and planning, and then the personal life. And I wanted to get your input on, you guys are, wealth managers, but it's so much more than that. It's a relationship. And like, how is that, kind of part of the model?
I mean, it's just, when we created this thing, we we developed what we call the three-legged stool. It's not very marketing friendly, but that's kind of how we came up with it. And the three-legged stool is simple. It's investments, which everybody cares about. It's your financial plan, and that's more than just cash flow planning. It's what you want your life goals to be, and then your estate plan, and how do all those work in concert together.
Yep.
And so we put all this together. That was really important to us to make sure we understood every little facet of a client's relationship. And so, as I said before, the best thing a client can do for us is like when they call us, they're talking to us about, hey, I want to get you in front of my daughter wants to start working with you, and that sort of thing, and generational type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost my train of thought there, but to us, it's much more than the investment side. The investment is very important. After the election, I've got plenty of calls about the tariffs and what's going on there, but it's the calls about, hey, well, I want to work with your daughter. You please work with our daughter, or I'm having this life issue I need your opinion on, or those sort of things, which is the stuff I love to talk about with clients. That's so much more meaningful.
And then, the more that you unpack those conversations and the more dialogue you have, like, that actually helps you help them more, because you're like more into their mind frame of what's going on in life. And hey, okay, you're saying that, I heard something over here, or I, thought something, and then you can bring it to the table.
Yeah, it's absolutely getting to know more about what's important to them and their family, and then be able to take that along with our experience with other families and saying, hey, we work with this family that has a very similar situation. Have you all thought about this? Yeah. And so that has been really impactful, and it's resonated very well with our clients. I mean, another thing we really tried hard to do, or we do, is that in our industry, it is typical for an advisor to have a book of business, and to hoard it. Chris, you're not touching my clients, you're not talking to my clients.
Yeah, this is my book, my revenue.
My revenue, don't talk to them. And if you're going after a prospect, don't talk to Andy, he's my prospect. Yep. Our team is different. I mean, there are 13 of us, and it's very much open architecture, where like Chris and his family is our client. Right. And it's whoever is best suited to answer the question that Chris comes to the table with, we're gonna put in front of them. And that's not necessarily always Andy, it's maybe Bill or Connor, it might be someone else on our team, depending on what their skill set is. So when we built out the team, it was important to us to have people that had different skill set. We brought in someone that had a lot of trust in estate planning work. We just hired a former estate planning and M&A attorney, just because we feel like having those type of resources for clients is invaluable. I think our business is switching so much from just the investment side, because a lot of people can do that self-managed, or there's a lot of things that, indexes and so forth that people stuff in. We don't necessarily believe in that, but that's table stakes today. Everybody can do that. It's the other stuff that people don't do that we feel like adds a lot of value. Yeah, absolutely. And it's specifically just the ability to work with so many different people and see how there might be some similarities, where, hey, like we saw a similar situation over here. Have you thought about this? Yeah, that's really valuable, because it's like practical real life experience. Yeah, and then to some degree, we take confidentiality very, very seriously, but if both clients are willing to put them together. Yeah. Which doesn't happen very often, but sometimes, clients are like, well, would you mind if I talk to them? And we could ask that client, do you mind if they talk to you? Because we want to be a resource for clients, make sure that they understand what we can provide for them. Yeah. So the three-legged stool, investments. We need a better name for that, but yes. Well, I remember I was watching the video of Lee on the Live Oak Bank, and he talks about the three-legged stool of Live Oak Bank. So maybe it's a theme here. Yeah, it could be a theme here for sure. Which, by the way, sidebar, I was really fortunate last week. Brad and Morgan that are starting the commercial bank, the local banking. They invited me and my team out just to come out, meet, talk, and they brought Lee and Steve into the meeting. Oh, nice! Which was really cool. Steve Smits. Yeah, nice. Yeah, which was really neat. And so Lee's taking us through the cafeteria, buying us lunch. I swear he knows everybody's name, and he's got a nickname for everybody. I'm like, this is ridiculous, oh my gosh. He's the personality that keeps this thing, culture's been so important to Live Oak, and so the way they and we, I guess, now have grown it to keep it that way. It's amazing how it's amazing. It's so cool, and that's what I'm really just starting to learn
all about, all the things that Live Oak has to offer. Like I did a podcast with Chikima who runs
did you
Channel.
really? Sure.
And that was like, just getting, I was like, how cool is it that like Live Oak Bank like puts money to create this program to just help small businesses in Wilmington.
Yeah.
Like that's super neat. But just like just all the businesses and the incubation and like the spin-offs and all the things that have started here, and Live Oak Private Wealth is, another example of like a new business that
started and has done well, but yeah, I'm excited about Morgan, those guys being here. I used to work with Kelly at Wells Fargo, so I remember her on that team. But you're right. I mean, Wells Fargo. I mean, Live Oak's mantra is just like bring in good teams, good people, and let them
let them do their thing.
Let them do their thing, and every vertical's kind of worked out that way.
Yeah,
and it's created a culture here. Like I tell people who like this is their first job and have been here forever, like you don't understand how good it is here.
Yeah.
Not just the facilities, but just the culture.
No.
It's not, there's no backstabbing or anything that's going on. It's everybody's kind of in it together. I mean, there's just one saying, it's like one jersey. And that's really true here.
Yeah. No, it's so all right, so I digress. But the three-legged stool, so it's investments, it's estate, and what was the third?
Financial planning.
And financial planning.
Yeah.
So I think I understand financial planning, investments. Is estate, is that more just like planning for the future of your family? Like if when you pass on, like what's left?
Estate documents, making sure your estate documents work in concert with your financial plan. A lot of times that doesn't happen, either from a titling perspective or estate planning documents, usually you go to the lawyer and they do a great job and they give you a stack of documents this big and say, Chris, you're all set, you got it, you're covered.
Yeah, you're covered.
And then a year later, someone asks you like a simple question like, you have young kids, like who's the guardian of your son? And you're like, oh, man, I think it's so-and-so. Well, we try to distill those documents down into a couple-page flow chart.
Got it.
With the salient points in there to say like, so all that stuff's listed. And then for clients, as they get more successful and things grow and things become more complicated, the flow chart helps them understand kind of where their assets are flowing to. And so maybe they don't want all this liquidity or wealth to go to a child, maybe they want to go to charity, or maybe they want to equally split it, and maybe one child's different than the other and that needs to be in a different type of vehicle. And so we just try to help flesh that out for them, again, just to simplify their situation, give them peace of mind that we understand what's going on. So, they help them make decisions. So when things change, like in DC, from the estate tax standpoint or otherwise, they can flip through this and we can together to figure out what makes the most sense and then get the appropriate professionals in place. And we're not attorneys, we don't draw up documents.
Right.
We're not CPAs, we don't do tax returns, but we just try to help be a part of that team to help facilitate things.
Part of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit more about, you mentioned the team, we take a team approach to serving our clients. Like, so when it first started, it was 3 of you guys.
There's 3 of us, and then there's a gentleman named Daniel Hughes who came over from Wells Fargo. He was on the trust side. Okay. And then there were 2 client service associates, Missy and Amy. So that was the original team. And it seems like so long ago, but. So yeah, that's how we kind of launched, and everybody was kind of doing everything. Clients were bringing in assets. I had a non-compete, non-solicit agreement, so that was kind of a year of challenge for me. And so we really, the 13 of us are tight, but we're really tight. This the initial group that just experienced a lot of stuff together.
Yeah. So let's say I come in the door, one of your team members has a relationship, they bring me in the door. I've got all my stuff I bring in. Who's in that like first meeting typically, or what's your kind of like onboarding process?
Yeah.
Like how does that?
So it's really just depends on the client, right? So if someone, let's say you got referred to us from somebody, and then we have a conversation. I try to get a general sense of what you're looking for, what your situation looks like, and based on that, we bring in different people. But usually we'll have the relationship manager, who's the primary contact typically, a planner, and an investment person. That means so probably 3 people in that, maybe 4, just depending on how the complexity of it, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
that's pretty. Sure, it makes the client feel pretty special, and like it's like cool. I got a team of folks here.
Well, you got a team here, and the one thing that, as I mentioned before, when the big institutions were moving resources out here, you have a local team that's all here with a boutique feel, and we're not having to go to Charlotte or Raleigh or Atlanta or anything to get any of these resources.
Yeah, it's all right here.
It's all right here, and we have over, investment team has over probably 250 years of experience now.
That's
collectively.
Amazing. Yeah. So the investment team, they are the ones that are like really building like investment strategies for how you'll deploy people's assets, or how to.
So just give you kind of soup to nuts. So if you come in, we do a deep dive plan for you.
Yeah.
Try to understand what you're trying to accomplish. That plan will flesh out an allocation.
Got it.
Okay, and we'll say, Chris, you and your wife need to be 80-20 stocks to bonds.
Right.
And you say, Andy, that's way too risky for me. I don't want that. And so we'll do some talking based on just risk profile of what that looks like. And once we get to that, the investment team takes that allocation and actually deploys the capital. And we're unique in that we actually manage our own portfolios here in-house.
Yeah.
So we have 3 distinct sleeves, investment thesis, so to speak. We have a growth at a reasonable price strategy we call GARP. Mm-hmm. We have a value strategy, and we have an international strategy. Mm-hmm. And so once we come out of the meeting from the allocation standpoint, and the relationship manager kind of knows you're going to be a certain way allocated, then we get with the investment team to help allocate that money. And then they take the funds and actually deploy it into our different strategies. And we also have index strategies and that sort of thing for clients that want that or want to spoke out, like, it's the client's money at the end of the day. We're going to tell you what we think to do, but if you're like, I want to have a little more growth, we can help provide that for you. We don't get into stuff like Bitcoin or anything like that, and we do have our limits. but we do help clients try to gain the exposure they want in different areas, as long as they understand the risk associated with that.
Yeah. What would you say the hardest part of your job is?
Controlling clients' emotions. Mm-hmm. Either on the investment side when things are really going south, or on the personal side when things are going south. Mm-hmm. We've had situations with clients and they're going through tough times, and it's just, like I said, I love getting that call from the client where you're kind of there to be their consigliere, so to speak, but that's probably the toughest part of the job because you want to make sure that you get it right for them. Mm-hmm. The investment side is a little more easier, honestly, because most of those calls, people are like, I want to get out. It's time to get out of the market, I'm done. I'm like, and you got to kind of calm off the ledge and let them understand, like, here's your plan, here's the allocation we have for you, here's the risk tolerance that you have, here are all our models that say you're going to be fine. Yeah. We're in good stocks that we know the companies that you're in, we know what you own, you're going to be fine. Yeah. So just don't pay attention to the noise. The personal side just gets a little more challenging because you have different dynamics with family members or business partners. You never know what the situation is going to be. But I love that aspect too. I mean, some reason the most challenging aspect's the part I love. Yeah,
I get it. And on the investment side, I mean, I could imagine if you've got a client that's looking at the stock price every single day, it's like, dude, come on.
Like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Yeah. Oh, I had one client that he said he wakes up every morning and he gets his phone first thing, and his Nest, like his temperature controls on his phone. Yeah. He goes, Andy, I get up, I change the temperature in my room. What else? He turned off the alarm to his house from his phone, and then I'll pull up your app. I'm like, don't do that. Please don't look at our app every day. I mean, if you're doing that, we're not doing the job for you. Because going back to our original thing, you should have peace of mind that we got it handled for you. Yeah. And we meet with clients as frequently as they want, typically quarterly, or at least touch base quarterly. So you're going to know how things are going. If there's something that's blowing up in the night or that we feel like you need to know, we're going to send you communication before then. You see all the trades that we do. We're very transparent. Yep. So there's really no reason for you to pick up your phone every day and look at our app. Yeah. I think it's even more fun when they have their own little self-managed account and they'll look at that account every day. Yeah. And I get a call like, Andy, you're right. I shouldn't have done it. Dang it. I was like, that's on you, man.
Oh, man. That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, I've made in my, like one of the 401k accounts that I had from like my first company that I rolled over, and my investment philosophy was like, I'm just going to pick a couple companies that I think are like, just like good long-term, whatever. Right. Happened to pick, again, we're talking small dollars, but I happened to pick Tesla and Apple.
Nice.
Which
Yeah.
in like
You need a job? You got that kind of foresight. I want to know what the next one is.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that was I think it was in like, I don't know, like 2014 or 2015, whatever. It's small dollars, but yeah, that's my, I won't tell you about the ones that didn't do so good.
Yeah. We all have them, you know, and I try to teach my kids on the investing side too. I guess it's a compliment to me. They rely on me a lot for a lot of their financial stuff, and I'm trying to push it off on them just so they can learn.
Yeah.
And so we have investment accounts for them, and so I have them investing in stocks
Cool.
that they like, that they buy,
Yeah.
or that they see their friends buy, and kind of following the trends. And it's a really great way to learn. And my point in saying that is that not all of them turn out great.
Yep.
You know, but it's kind of fun for them to see that. So, my son invested in Microsoft a long time. That well, he's 21. But
Yeah.
he invested that turned out well.
Heck yeah.
My daughter invested in Nike. Did not turn out as well.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, but they're understanding kind of how the stock market works, and I think that's important for all levels. So for people to learn.
So when I went to elementary and middle and a little bit of high school living in Northern California, and we lived there in like the late 90s, early 2000s when like the tech, boom and bubble was going on.
Yeah.
And in my like in fourth grade or fifth grade, we had like an investment class.
Sweet.
Which was really cool. Like we got like $100 or $200 or whatever, and like we put it into, I think it was an Ameritrade account at the time. And like,
Old school.
Yeah, like super old school. It's like I don't even know if there was an online, like I remember getting statements in the mail and like writing a check when I wanted to like buy more shares or something. Yeah. But I swear there's a point. I remember like I was doing this with my dad, and my dad, we picked Home Depot, and then he gave me these like other like tech ones. He's like, oh, these ones are gonna be great. And they all went out of business.
Out of the dot-com bust?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Like really quick.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, Dad, how'd you even think of these? He's like, oh, I see the buildings on my drive home from work.
All them putting their names out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Admittedly, I worked for one of those out of business school. So my summer of my first year of business school, I got to work for a startup in Raleigh. It's called BuildNet.
Okay.
And what made me think of that was that it had the name on the buildings. I was like, this thing's really going somewhere.
Yeah, this thing's
Everybody was kind of caught up in it. And I wanted to do something. I'd come from banking. I was thinking I was going to go back in investment banking, but I wanted just some type of corporate environment for the summer. BuildNet was a great company. They had this software that was basically going to connect end users of the commercial building projects to the actual project itself. So anyway, I worked for them, and they were, and one of my good buddies like worked for them like real time, like that was his permanent job. And man, Chris, they got to the door of the IPO market, and the valuations they were talking were crazy. And my friend just had huge dollar signs in his eyes, and it closed like I swear like 3 weeks before they were going to go public, and it cratered. Like the whole .com just burst, and like he and I still talk about it. I was like, man, you're right there. And he's like, yeah, but it was a great experience, and he's gone on to do pretty good stuff too.
Heck
but,
yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, and to be able to be in those situations, and he didn't make a mistake, but when you make a mistake when you're young, you got the rest of your life.
Yeah. We were young, and we didn't have kids. He didn't have kids at this point, and so yeah, you can do that. It's a time to take risk and to do stuff like that, for sure.
So you talking about your time in private equity, like working in that area. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it kind of seems like it wasn't, you weren't getting the fulfillment.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. I mean, it's a great career for a lot of people. I was with a company called Allied Capital. It was a mezzanine finance firm, so we came in and provided debt for clients that really didn't have collateral and weren't really bankable from a senior loan perspective. And so we were kind of the next tier down, and we charged a bigger interest rate, and we got some equity kickers as a part of the deal. So I worked for them, great company, good experience, but it just, I was an analyst, so I was behind the desk doing a bunch of modeling.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me.
Yep.
And it just wasn't me. It just wasn't me. The environment there wasn't me. The hours you had to put in wasn't me. I like working hard, but it just wasn't my environment.
Yeah.
So wealth management has really been great for me. And ironically, I looked at wealth management in business school, and I went and talked to a bunch of firms that were interviewing, and those firms were like, oh man, you gotta your minimum client's got to be like $30 million. Like,
how do I start there?
I'm like 30 years old. I don't know anybody that has $30 million.
Yeah.
So it really just turned me off to it. And then when I had that experience with Cliff Bar and was thinking about it, and I called my friend who had that guy in DC, I was like, I've been down this path. I like it, but I don't have that $30 million client. He's like, oh, no. He's like, there's a whole spectrum of people that you can help. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about my business. I may have some clients that are higher net worth than others, but I love the diversity in my book of business. Yeah. I work with business owners that are starting up. I work with people who have sold businesses. I work with people that are retired. All of it's really interesting to me because all of them are different issues, and it's just, it's fun. I would hate to have the exact same type of client in my book of business.
Yeah, because
or our book of business.
You get back to that repetitive cycle of.
Yeah. So it's, I tell my kids, like, I feel like today and a lot of times, and this is not only true of careers, but I think just kids in general feel like they can't, they must have to like all march in unison, you know, like I feel like everybody wants to go to the same college. This is what I've seen, you know, they all want to be in the same, if they're in a fraternity or sorority, they want to be in the same one. They all want to be in investment banking, they all want the same careers, they want this, same, that. And I was like, find your path, you know? I mean, that might be your path, but don't be afraid to like look at other things. And I only found this through just going through experiences.
Yeah.
And you know, I've encouraged my kids to do the same thing.
Looking back, would you have changed any of the experiences or the path?
There's always a Monday morning quarterback, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, I would have loved to had launched out into my own investment management firm like I've done within Live Oak earlier. Yeah. I admire someone like you who started their business early and kind of grown it and doing their thing at an earlier age. I wish I'd taken that risk. And thankfully my wife just basically, when I was looking at this opportunity, I was still weighing it because we had kids that are in high school, getting ready to college and everything else. But I'd been talking to her about it, not necessarily Live Oak, but other, just like, God, I really want to go do something like this for like 5 or 6 years. And she finally looked at me, and I think I told you, she's like, look, either you quit talking about this or you go do it. So I was like, that's a good point. You know? And so that's what kind of pushed me over the edge to really kind of pursue this opportunity at Live Oak. And like I said, it was challenging at times, for sure. And it tested your mettle a little bit, but it's been a great experience. Yeah. And love the people I work with. I mean, our success is due to all of us. I mean, it truly is. It's not like just me or Bill or Connor. I mean, they would say the same thing. We just have a great team, and they all care about the client. That's what's really important. Yeah.
It definitely is. It's funny, the story of what your wife said to you is pretty similar to Natalie, my wife as well. Basically, she was like, shut up or change it. You know?
I mean, sometimes you need that hard message from someone who really cares about you. And Natalie and Ashley said the same thing. And then not only that, I remember like a couple months into it, you know, it was a challenge, right? Because I had this non-compete, and that was a challenge, and starting a new business. And she looked at me there and she said, look, I was talking to Ashley about it. She goes, if it was easy, everybody would do it. It's going to be hard, but it'll be worth it. And so it has been.
Yeah, and here you guys are now.
So now we're just at a place now where we're trying to continue to grow our practice, find the right people. Culture is important to us, and you know, that believe in kind of the same philosophies we do, and grow from here. So it's nice to be on that side of the equation now, more of the aggressive side, like trying to go grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the right way.
So when you guys are looking to hire, I mean, are you kind of like always looking for good people, and if someone happens to potentially be a good fit, it's like, hey, let's make a spot for them? Or are you guys more like, we have a need, now let's go look? Like, how do you approach that?
As you know, in your business, if you wait until you like turn that switch to find someone, it takes forever. I'm always looking, assessing people, and I find that you usually find people when you're not looking.
Exactly.
You know?
I know.
I mean, you really do. Like, you know, the hires that we've had here so far have been just because we weren't really looking, but they kind of worked out. And you know, we're talking to a couple people now, and they're kind of the same thing. Like, wasn't really thinking about them, but it just kind of worked out. So we'll see if it works out. But yeah, we're always looking. You got to always be looking.
Always.
Yeah.
And like those organic, you know, kind of situations or like relationships, typically tend to, I don't know, in my experience, typically tend to work out the best.
Yeah.
Where you're not like trying too hard. It just kind of happens.
They have a, for lack of better words, a need or they really a desire to do this. And I love to see when you're talking to those people, and you probably see it in your business too, like you meet this person, there's some interest, and then just persistently following up, like, man, this person really wants it, which I love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That means that there's that same type of emotional tie and all buy-in. Like, you know, when you hire people, you want someone to be all in.
Totally.
And not just in for like a job.
Yeah. So, small world, we weren't planning on hiring an intern this summer. Like, I don't know, I wasn't thinking about it. But actually, one of the colleagues who works at Aperture.
Oh, really?
Ash Good.
Yep.
I know him because when I was working for Deloitte, I was the auditor for PPD. And so, like, I know him, like whatever from, you know, just we knew of each other, I guess. But he somehow reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a kid who's like interested in, you know, looking for an internship this summer. Would you meet with him? It's like, sure. Yeah. And so I met with this young kid, and it was so refreshing because I was like, oh, this is not the young generation. I don't know what generation it is that we are now, but like, it was not the like, you know, I want to be a partner tomorrow, you know, start working tomorrow and be a partner. How many days off can I get?
Yeah.
But
that is refreshing.
But he's like, it's really cool. Like, he's been like checking in with me like every couple weeks, like, hey, how you doing? How's this going?
Yeah, he's vested. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
we were talking about Adam that works with us, and kind of similar. He had a role here at the bank, and we were starting to hire someone, and his boss approached us and said, you really ought to talk to him. And we talked to him, and the same thing. You could just see he really wanted it. Was okay starting where he needed to start, and now he's just all in. I love people that are just all in on our vision, you know, and buy into it. And so it's not, as you know, it's hard to find, really hard to find. So we are always looking for someone, always looking for good talent to continue to grow and provide bench strength for us, but also a succession plan for us. You know, as advisors or people get older, we need to make sure that our clients are taken care of. And some people we find, Chris, quite honestly, like I might deal with the husband and wife, but their child who's mid-20s or early 30s don't want to work with their parents' advisor. Right. But they like what we're saying. So have that option to have someone younger work with them. And again, having the great platform like, well, wait, they're my clients. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you like Chris more because he's more your age or for whatever reason, that's great. We want to make sure your family's taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's makes all the sense in the world to me. You know, I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Talking a little bit about like, you know, building a business, spin-offs, private equity. I've been thinking about this for a little while now, and I was talking with someone this morning about it. But you know, I think that a lot of people. You think of someone that wants to start a business and like the ultimate goal, or like, you know, you've made it when you build a business and you sell it, right? Like that's
ring the bell.
Yep, ring the bell.
Right.
And then, but now, and I still think, you know, that's an awesome goal to shoot for.
For sure.
But, you know, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, man, if I were to do that, what would I do the next day? You know, like, what else am I going to do? Like, you're going to try, basically go start doing the same thing I was doing.
Yeah.
But the point that I was like thinking about is private equity is, you know, you hear of like rolling up, I'm going to roll up a bunch of HVAC companies. Right. I'm going to roll up a bunch of software companies. And I've been thinking about this idea of like, you know, there's got to be a succession plan for business owners, right? Like whether you sell to private equity, you sell to someone else, or you hand the business down. But I see on like a macro level, if every small business gets started, sells to private equity, and then they ship the jobs overseas, like what happens to our community?
Right, yeah.
And this is a kind of a circular random conversation, but I look at a group like at Live Oak, and I see, you know, a company that's gone from, you know, a couple people in their garage to like, you know, the largest SBA lender traded on the public exchange, but is still like so deeply involved in the community and like supporting small business.
For sure.
And so, you know, on the wealth management side, like, you know, when what type of conversations do you have with your people about like, hey, I'm getting ready to sell my business or something like that?
Our clients?
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. When clients get to that point where they sell, like obviously there's a lot of excitement because they're getting ready to make a lot of money, but there's also that question, like you said, like, well, what do I do the day after, right? What does that look like? And so and we're fortunate to have a lot of experience in this. There's just a lot of psychology you have to walk them through, kind of what life looks like afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of things, Chris. It's like no longer getting a paycheck, but you got this pot of money and now you really want to make sure it don't run out, and you want good people that are managing that for you. But then also most entrepreneurs like yourself aren't going to sit still. So what's the next phase look like, and how does that play out, and everything else, and how much do they give back and involved in the community? So it's all those things we talked to them about. I tell you, primarily what happens is they sell the business. There's kind of euphoria, which there should be.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of say, why don't we just take a minute, and let the dust settle, and then we talk about your plan and get that all situated. And inevitably within that plan, there's this piece of the allocation. They're like, well, just leave that in cash because I might get back in another business at some point, So it's a part of the plan, but it's over there, and that's just the nature of most entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs. Are going to continue to do what they're doing, but they've kind of taken a lot of risk off the table, which is nice for them to do and for their family. And then the conversation obviously becomes, as they've gotten this money, is like, okay, I made my money. I want to make sure I don't spoil my kids. What does that look like?
Yeah. Have you had situations where you guys have, had to fire a client, like, hey, this isn't like a good fit anymore, or like had any of those tough situations?
Yeah, we've lost clients on both sides. Like, some clients come and say they're not a good fit, and some people were just like, you know what, we're not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
And it's it can be a myriad of reasons why. But we've had not many of them, but we have had situations like that. And it's better for both because there's just frustration around the table if we're not all on the same page. Yeah. We deeply believe in our model, and but there are a lot of, as you know, there are a lot of people do wealth management around not just this area, but everywhere. And it's not like those people do a good job too, so you just need to find a model that works best for you.
And even if it's just a personality, it's like, hey, you might just get along better with these folks. That's fine.
Yeah. We've had those hard conversations on both sides for sure.
So you guys being part of a publicly traded company, what is, what type of reporting do you guys have to do to the board, and like how does the governance structure and like goal setting and reporting work?
We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Live Oak Bank Shares, so we're Live Oak Private Wealth LLC essentially.
Got it.
Owned by the bank.
Yep.
And I report to a lady that's in corporate strategy named Stephanie Mann, and so I provide quarterly reports to her in terms of financials and how we're doing, and then the goal setting we do, kind of on an annual basis. Like, here's how much new AUM we want to grow by this year. Here's how many people we like to hire this year. As a team, we kind of come up with that. Then we submit it to Stephanie. But the bank kind of, I wouldn't say it's a rubber stamp, but they kind of like, as long as they feel like it makes logical sense, they kind of go along with it.
Yeah.
Same from a budgetary standpoint. And then, like, literally just before I came here, I submitted our year-end results to Stephanie. She kind of knew most of them, but and I do a write-up that says, here's how we did, here's where we're on budget, here's where we're off budget, here's the new clients we brought in, if we had any attrition, here's what they're what they're associated with. And so we track attrition pretty closely, and thankfully, knock on wood, last year we really didn't have any attrition associated with like firing of us, and we had one or two that just wanted a different investment, but most of the people, unfortunately, we lost just for either divorce or people dying.
Yeah, that's no good.
That's no good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of how the corporate structure works. And then we, the great thing about this institution is you have kind of real live conversations. You've been in the Grove.
Yeah.
So I'll be in the Grove, and BJ will be like, hey, how things are going, or Chip, what's going on, or Lee, what's going on. So there's a lot of just real-time dialogue about how our business is going, how can we help, what do you need, those sort of things.
Yeah. And I'm sure it helps that you guys are doing a good job too. Yeah,
We hadn't missed a number yet, knock on wood. That'll happen at some point. We're not perfect, but yeah, we're doing a good job. I mean, everybody like to grow faster and better and more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and the bank's been really good about this, culture is so important. Like, we could go find advisors to hire.
Yeah.
Sure we could, but it would not necessarily be a good cultural fit for us. And then we spent 6 years building this thing to take it back. You know, in a business, you can hire one bad person, it takes you 5 years back.
Yeah, totally.
We just don't want to do that.
I love to tell this. It's something that I've just, experienced when I was hiring, not when I was hiring. When I was hiring the first employee for Capone Associates, I was like, this is going to be the most important hire. It's going to be like my first hire. Like, it's got to be the right person that can help me, and it was at that point. But what I didn't realize is that each incremental hire is actually the most important.
Yeah.
Because we've created this nucleus and such a great culture that it's like, don't come in here and mess up what we've got started, right?
Yeah.
And so I never really thought about that until I was going through the process. I was like, all right, we got 6 really, really good people here. The next one are they going to fit in, right? Are they aligned?
And the cool thing is, and I've seen it here, I mean, I can't take any credit for the culture that Chip and Leah put together here. And Leo, it's amazing. I think our culture kind of mirrors that. But it's interesting when a culture gets to a certain point and that bad egg comes in, the culture almost takes care of it.
Yeah.
Which is a cool place to be.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, that would be, as a company, I think what everybody should strive for.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if you come in and you're the one that doesn't really get along or fit with the culture, you're gonna it's gonna be really clear. It's I guess
it's gonna be really clear, and people are gonna be like, this is probably just in the right place.
Yeah, this is really. Yeah, man. So I always like to talk a little bit about leadership and personal development, and that was something we were talking about over lunch one time. But you're the head of the organization of private wealth,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So how'd you learn your leadership skills? It's just stuff you've learned over time, or?
We really set this up as, we do manage by committee of the part. So part of the story left out is, so me, Bill, and Connor started this, kind of the original 3 partners, and then we bought a firm. I think I've told you this. Right before COVID, Frank Jolly, who's in Rocky Mount, and they have employees in Raleigh.
That's right. Yep.
So they're really kind of 4 managing directors, of which I'm one of them.
Okay.
And so in terms of how I got the lead role, I don't know, it's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
But I would just say my leadership style is that I just try to remove obstacles so our team can function at a high level. And I'm one of these people that tries to lead by example. I'm not someone that's going to sit there and say, Chris, you need to go swim that lake real quick if I can't do it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I don't know if that's right or wrong, and I'm not sure if what people gravitate towards that, but that's what I'm comfortable with, right? I feel like if I can go do something and perform, and then ask someone, I can ask someone else to do that and understand kind of where they are.
Yeah.
And but we really function as a team. I'm just kind of the head person that tries to remove obstacles for people and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, I think that's the right way. So for whatever that counts.
Good.
I think
that's good to hear it. That's good to hear it.
Are you part of any peer groups or other groups of CEOs or people that lead divisions and get together and talk about problems or anything?
Informally, kind of 2 or 3 groups,
Yeah.
Chris. I went to business school at Chapel Hill, so I have a pretty tight-knit group of guys, and I went to I was a full-time MBA student, so we lived there, and so we got a pretty good nucleus of people, and they've all gone to do great things. And so we get together a couple times a year. They're on the phone or playing golf or doing something, and we kind of kick around different ideas that people are struggling with and talking about. And it's been helpful. It's kind of just curious to see what's hot topics for them in the different industries they're in. I mean, it's fascinating for me right now. AI is such a big thing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's such a big thing. One guy, we were at dinner one time, and he said, I thought how do you put it? He said, I think unfortunately like climate change and something else are kind of going to be unfortunately our kids' issues to deal with. He's like, but AI is going to be our issue to make sure we deal with it and use it in the right way and that sort of thing. And it's been pretty powerful just to hear them talk about that. So that's one group that I have. There's a group, I grew up in Charlotte, that I kind of associate with, a lot of them that I fortunately went to high school with and that sort of thing. But no like true organizationals that I do, just kind of more networking that I've met along the way. There's advisors that I've met along the way that I value their input. There's a guy that got me in this business who is probably the best wealth manager that I know, but you would not know it to look at him. Like he doesn't necessarily present the part that well, but the guy's just such a solid guy and he's just seen everything. And so there's a lot of times like if I'm doing stuff now, I'll just reach out to him. He's still in DC and I'm like, does this make sense? And it's great to have a sounding board like that.
That's really cool to have that.
Yeah.
I've been so amazed at how willing people are to help if you ask.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're a nice person, you've got a good like you're doing the right things, right?
Yeah.
Like people will go out of their way, in my experience, to help, and provide their 2 cents where they can.
So my stepfather was a really good businessman, and he just said when I started my first job, first year, he goes, go have lunch with as many people as you can, just to get and learn knowledge from them. So I called up all these different managers and took them to lunch and that sort of thing. And I always appreciated that. And so, to your point, like anybody ever calls me up that wants to go to lunch or do anything just to pick my brain for the 2 cents that are in it, I'm happy to do that, because I think to your point, that's how you learn. Just talking to different people and learning what experience they've had with things with them. So.
Well, we're unfortunately at our time.
That went way too fast.
I know. I've been saying one day we're going to be able to do this for several hours at a time.
Yeah, we're going to need to. Yeah. It'd be really cool is if you had like a summit with all the people you did podcasts with.
You're not the first person that said that. I think that'd be the coolest.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
a
appreciate
weekend,
you saying that.
Maybe somewhere off campus, pick a place in the mountains, one of these camps that kind of can for the weekend. That would be super. That'd be powerful. It'd be really powerful.
I like it.
Yeah. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate your interest in our business and us. We're proud of what we've created. We got a long way to continue to grow. I'm excited about it, and it's awesome having human capital like you and in Wilmington and stuff you're doing is always fun to watch too. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Andy.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.